Good evening, everyone. Thank you, and welcome back to another episode of Books and Booze. We are here today with author Deborah L. King, and we are talking about her debut novels. I'm going to say because I read them together, but and I have affectionately named them as Glory Glory. So we're talking about Glory Bishop and Glory Unbound tonight. So, welcome, Miss King, to the Books and Booze show. I am so happy to have you here, and I cannot wait to dive into a little bit about these two books. But, guys, I want to tell you, y'all know how I am. So, I'm going to try to stay away from any spoilers. So, I'm going to try because I really think you guys should read this book. It was just a very thought provoking story. It had a lot of meat to it. So I'm hoping that you guys will pick this up if you haven't already. So, Miss King, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, um, hi, I'm glad to be here.
Mhm.
Let me think. I am the author of three books, actually. Two of them are published right now, Glory Bishop and Glory Unbound. I was born and raised in Chicago, where the books are set, and I came of age in the '80s, which is when the books are set.
Mhm.
Um, it took me 30 years to write both books.
Wow.
I
Wow.
started Glory Bishop in '92, and I finished Glory Unbound in 2019.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm gonna say I can understand why it might have took you that long because when I tell you there is a lot of information in this book about a girl, Glory, who's a teenager and her coming of age. And one of the things that I really, really like about this is number one, you were so detailed with the story. And number two, it was set in my hometown, which is the Chicagoland area. So I was loving that. I love how everything was it was on 75th Street. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that area and what your vision was as you was writing that on some of the places that you envisioned that was in there, because I don't think you said names of some of the places. I know it was a liquor store, and then I know it was at the beauty shop. So we're gonna talk about the beauty shop a little bit because that was where most of the scenes were in the in the book. A lot of the scenes took place there. So tell us a little bit about 75th Street. Like where if you're living in the Chicagoland area, this is the place where we're gonna go, y'all, and relive this story.
75th Street, where this takes place, is in the South Shore neighborhood near South Shore Country Club, Rainbow Beach, in
Okay.
that area.
Okay.
I
Okay.
lived over there for a few years growing up, and the liquor store was right down the street from my church.
Okay.
75th Street was like a small strip.
Mm-hmm.
Stores, businesses with apartments above them up and down the street for about a mile.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I guess from from Exchange to Stony Island or something like
Okay,
that.
I know exactly where you're talking about. Well, when you said Rainbow Beach, I knew where, but Exchange, everybody knows South Side, East Side of Chicago. You know,
Yes.
when you say Exchange, everybody knows that's the where the vicinity is. Uh, just wanted to say a little shout out to everybody. Hey, Miss Maisha. Hey, Loretta. Mary. Hey, Cuz. How you doing, Miss Louise? And hey, Sissy. Cinquetta. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We just started and we haven't dived in yet, but when I tell you, I'm gonna be looking for a book buddy after this, somebody that can hold up and stand to talk about this book because there's a lot of conversations to be had about it. So let's start with Glory. Glory Bishop. Now, Glory Bishop was a teenager who was coming of age in the Chicagoland area. Um, she was typically the family. I mean, when you think about little teenage girls, everything was normal until you get inside the doors for
Yeah.
Glory. Now, again, if you miss me saying this, there are a few triggers in this book, and I know a couple of my reader friends, you guys don't like triggers, but if you can get past it, you really do want to get past this and get to this book because it is a really great story. Now, what inspired you to write um, the storyline in this way for Glory?
Well, in 1992, I took a women's fiction writing class,
Hmm.
and we had writing prompts, and one prompt was red shoes.
Okay.
And I had 5 minutes to just write about these red shoes. And what came up was a girl walking across the street wearing a winter coat in the summertime, carrying a pair of red high heel shoes. And in her head, she was having an argument in her head with her mother's voice berating her for carrying these red shoes. And the next class, we had another 5 minutes. So I expanded on that scene, and I got her across the street and into the bar that she was going to. And it was blues music playing, and it sounded to her like gospel music.
Okay.
And it because it sounded like gospel music, she got kind of got the Holy Ghost. And the ending line of that scene was, and that's where the sunrise found her, stripped down to her soul and dancing on the bar.
Mm.
And that character became Glory.
Okay. So that scene sort of happened, but it didn't happen in the beginning. It happened sort of toward the end in the second book,
Yes,
right? Okay,
yes.
okay. So you got this scene that you sort of wrote in the second book, almost to the end of the second book. And so, how many more writing classes did you have? Did you have more writing prompts that you had to do before
We
you
had
really completed
we
the
had
story?
other prompts,
Mm-hmm.
and I hung on to that story. And when the next prompt, I can't remember, it wasn't 75th Street, but it might have been something like a city street or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Glory walking down 75th Street at night, and a car pulling up next to her, and the church bad boy yelling out of the window, offering her a ride and singing Glory, Glory, Hallelujah at her because she was ignoring him. And that character became JT.
Oh, I absolutely love JT. I think JT might have been but there was a few of them, just only a few. But JT might have been the one who had the most sense out of everybody. Him and Hershey,
Yes.
to the main scenes. Yeah, those two, and I absolutely adore JT. I just loved him. I actually have a little bit of something, you guys. I listen, I'm struggling here because I want to really dive into this book. I really want to know everything. But let me just read you a little something in the beginning about what made me fall in love with JT. Uh let me see. Okay, is this the same? This is the one. Okay. Yeah, no, this is the one. There was two scenes for JT, the one in the very beginning and then the one, just before. Let me just see here. I always do this. I even highlighted this too for him. Let's see. Well, did you have a favorite part in Glory Bishop?
My favorite part were the scenes that took place down south, when she went to
Yes.
visit her family.
Yes, yes.
I loved Uncle Bobby, and I loved everything with Herschel.
Yeah, and let's not forget Ruthie.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, Ruthie guys was one of the aunts, and I have to say one what Miss King didn't say, but she has a couple of childhood things that she has accomplished already. So some of us are still struggling trying to get it, but she's almost hit all of her bucket list things in there. And one of her lists, one of the things on her list is a truck driver. So at some point in time, you were a truck driver, I'm
I
assuming,
was
right?
married to a truck driver, and I did take trips.
Okay. Okay. Now, one of the aunties in here is a truck driver. And y'all, when I tell y'all want her for your auntie because she gonna have your six. She was bad to the bone. I loved her too. Uh, but anyway, so the scene that I'm looking for is early on in the book where JT and Glory are 5 years old. Glory was brought up in the church. JT was brought up in the church, and they are, you know how you have those small churches in the South where they or in the city but they southern churches where when there's a wedding going on and everybody's at the church and the little kids are somewhere up in the balcony or in the kids room or whatever. So Glory is watching this wedding down there. So they get married, the church is still decorated, and JT obviously just fell in love with her at one point, but he tricks her to go up to the altar. Somebody drops some flowers, he gives those to her, and then he tricks her into actually marrying him on the altar that day. So when I tell you how sweet this was with him, and that carried on all the way until his adulthood and her adulthood as well. But then there's some things that happen in between there where they couldn't get it right, quite right. So when you wrote that scene, what was your intention with that scene? What did you intend for it to be, go all the way through the whole storyline, or just something to kind of grab the reader?
Originally, it was um it was supposed to be book 2, Glory Unbound, was written in 3 parts. In
Okay. Mhm.
and part 2 was their whole childhood, the whole entire story of the relationship of Glory and JT.
Mhm.
The publisher thought it worked better going as little breaks in the story.
Mhm.
So I had originally written the whole relationship all the way through,
Okay.
from when he tricked her into marrying him and she beat him up, all the way until their issues they had and when they got back together and then he went off to the Navy. And I had
Mhm.
written all of that out as just like 4 or 5 chapters.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
publisher said, no, let's split this up.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I think splitting it up probably was a good idea because you had so much stuff going on in between. You had a lot to fill it in. So
mhm.
it was good, but I have to say though, reading it the way you wrote it and having it broken up into those little segments of him, appearing or being talked about or whatever, I was just like, Lord, when is he coming back? Is he ever coming back? Because we need him to come back. Because Lord, I don't know how much Hershey can do. We need JT back. Um, guys, when I tell y'all, oh my Lord, when you read this book, it is going to hi Miss Iris. Hey Marion. Hi, thanks for joining us. Hey Deborah. Thanks for joining us. When I tell you, when you finish reading this book, it's gonna make you appreciate if you had anything similar to a normal childhood, you're gonna this book is gonna make you appreciate what you had. uh so JT's family was also part of the same church, right? And
Yes.
so he was not a bad kid. He just got wrapped up in some stuff like most of us do. We make mistakes because we're young, we don't know. and you try to, hang, and then you get caught up. So he did. But I want to say, I do appreciate how he took responsibility for all of his actions. He didn't blame it on anybody else. He stood up, he took those actions. And Lord, y'all, I am so bad. When I tell you, I need to write the stuff down instead of doing it in my book, because it was one thing. And this book also too, I'll just a preference by saying this too. It was a lot about around a church, your relationship with the church, your relationship with your pastor, and those kind of things like that. So when you think about the things that were going on in their lives, a lot of it had to do with the teachings, right? Would you say the
Yeah,
teachings? Because both of their parents were really rooted in the church, and so the elder, basically all of his teachings, they kind of gravitated to, you know, and tried to live those lives like that.
I
Now,
think so.
yeah, would you say, now, did you grow up in the church as well?
Yes.
Okay. So did you bring anything, did you pull anything, any scenes or any actions from, your growing up in the church into this book?
Actually, I really did.
Okay.
Uh I can't mention it without it giving away spoilers, but there are some things that happened in the church.
Hmm.
Um, there was a scandal that happened in
Okay.
my church.
Okay.
Um, let's see what else. Um, our church was not as fundamentalist as
Hmm.
Glory's church,
Okay.
but it was in the South Shore neighborhood, southeast side of Chicago. The kids were, I'm not going to say left to our own devices, but
Hmm.
the smaller kids kind of were. We had a really strong youth group and a strong children's choir and things like that.
Okay.
But on Thursday night's choir rehearsal, all the kids were there. So the games that Gloria and JT and all the church kids played while all the adults were busy, were the exact same games we played.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not going to say it formed my opinion of Christianity or church or anything like that, but I think it gave me a good foundation. I learned to do good things, I learned to be nice,
Hmm.
things like that. But
Okay.
it was a good church.
Well, the things that JT and Glory had to go through, they pretty much formed their own opinions, and their lives was formed out of all of that. But I think they turned out really great. But JT, there's a scene where JT has an issue that kind of breaks him and Glory up of their little childhood wedding or marriage, right? And she hasn't been speaking to him, so he's going to be going to the Navy soon, so he comes to visit her to try to tell her that he was sorry for what happened. And then the thing that most churches do is when you make a mistake, you have to go up to the altar and you have to say, ask for forgiveness. And JT didn't feel that that was necessary. He felt like if he had asked for forgiveness from God himself, and God had forgiven him, he felt like that was enough. And so he ostracized himself from the church. And then he became, because people, what they do, they talk about what they don't know. And so he was the bad boy. It was a bunch of rumors around the church about him, but he came to see Glory because her opinion of him was one of the ones that mattered from the church. He didn't care about anybody else. And so she's scolding him about saying bad things about God. And it wasn't that he was saying bad things about God. He just says, I'm not questioning God. I think actually I'm understanding God. He followed her to the dryer, helping her move warm towels from the folding table. Think about it. God made this big, beautiful world, and the church tells you that loving the life that God gave you, or anything God made, is evil. I think that's dissing everything God does right now. And what he means by that is just actually so. They're saying he's evil for making a mistake. And they wanted him to go up and tell his business at the altar, and he didn't want to do that. And so he's saying that I've already asked for forgiveness, and that should be enough. And what they're saying is that what I've done is evil, and that he is never going to be forgiveness no matter what he does. Either he goes up to the altar or whatever, he's just evil. And so I think um sometimes we have to be careful, and I see this more now. I think I pay attention more now with the world changing and everything. A lot of people put a lot of stigmatism on religion, and particularly with the young people. They want everything fast. They are good kids mostly, but they don't want all of this stuff, that you can't do this, you got to cross all these t's and everything. And I hear a lot of kids talking about, they say come as you are, but they don't want you to come as you are,
Yeah,
because we're all flawed, right? And so they don't get that whole come as you are. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, that was what I picked up from the book. So I'm gonna let you tell me if that was was that your vision for JT?
that was JT's attitude.
Yeah.
That this he wore gym shoes to church, which was a huge scandal. Wearing gym shoes to church. He said, "This is me. This is who I am. This is how I am,"
Hmm.
and he was unapologetic.
Yeah. Now we didn't hear too much about JT's family though. Well, his father was in um well, you did mention like his mom, but they weren't real prevalent in the story until like toward the end.
His mother and father were divorced.
Hmm.
Um, there, I do have a short story about that I can actually tell, because anybody who orders the book from me or something gets the short story free.
Okay.
But JT's mother found these Barbie dolls under JT's bed
Oh,
and called his father.
okay.
And his father came over to talk to him about, to find out, why do you have Barbie dolls under your bed? Um, Hi, Erica. um, the Barbie dolls under the bed were part of the story I can't give away because that's a spoiler.
Right, yeah. Well, we can tell that. We can tell that that was the Barbie dolls was just, we can say that the Barbie dolls was sort of a communication between Glory and
And
JT.
JT, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because whenever Glory was sad, JT would find Barbie shoes for her,
Hmm.
and it would make her smile. And his father was very pleased to find out that his son wasn't really playing with Barbie dolls.
Hmm.
He was quite happy that it was a little girl involved.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I would have loved to have met well, both of JT's families, but and particularly the dad, because we get to see him a little bit in the background toward the end of the story, in the second book. So they were very understanding. It was, and Deborah, I so agree with you about that. I feel like the people that was in this church, all the way up to the elder himself, just did not get it. They just didn't get it, you know. And then even let's talk a little bit about Malcolm. Malcolm was one of the main characters. He was the pastor's son. So what inspired Malcolm's story? Because that was a doozy.
Malcolm's story was, I had to figure out why he was the way he was,
Hmm.
why he was interested in this 17-year-old girl. Um, and as I'm writing the story, I don't want to sound crazy, but Malcolm started talking to me. He
Okay.
started
Oh,
telling me his
yes.
own
We
story.
know about that talking to.
And he I figured out that the reason he was wanted this 17-year-old girl is because in his mind he was probably only 18 years old, because he missed so much life. He missed There was so much time that he was out of commission, that he was he that between 15 and 22 he missed everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was probably only 17 in his own mind.
Yeah, he was pretty messed up. I think we can, yeah. Well, he was pretty messed up. He was pretty messed up. He had gone through a rough life. Um and it was I see I didn't pick that up, but that makes a lot of sense what you just said about Malcolm, because here's the thing I also wanted to ask you. So when Malcolm talks to Glory, he was always saying woman, woman. And I thought to myself, like, okay, speak those things into existence, because she was not a woman, but I felt like he was just saying it to make it so, or to make himself feel better about that, because she was not a woman. Oh, hey there, Mama Tony. That's Tracy and Mama Tony are in LA. They're going on Brenda Jackson's cruise. Thank you guys so much for spending a little time with us. Um, yeah, but what you said makes sense. He was not really an adult. His mind was not an adulthood. It was like a child in a man's body.
Yeah.
Um, but he was some kind of special. And he was another one that I felt like was a missed opportunity for the church to do something about. He needed help. Um, but he was a little bit hard for me to understand, because on one end I felt like he should have had some kind of help. Like, I felt like he needed to see a therapist, and I think you did say he saw one, right?
He said he was going to, but I don't
Okay.
think he ever got around to it. No, he did see a therapist after his accident.
Okay. Okay. His near death experience.
Yeah, his near death experience.
Right. And so the homeless people, or the people that were homeless on the street, were the ones who saved him. And so he in turn was he was a minister to them, which I understood that totally. So on one half he was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because one side he was this mean-spirited person, and then on the opposite side he was doing a little bit of good
Mhm.
to help the people on the street. I said that, but now I changed my mind, because you know why? What was the guy's name at the shelter?
Tutu.
Obi or Tubi?
Tutu.
Tutu. Yeah. When he did some things to Tutu, I didn't, I was like, I don't know. This guy's just crazy, crazy. Guys, you know what? Hey there. Hey, Miss Tammy. How are you? So here's my thing, y'all. I'm really, really trying not to bring no spoilers in here. So if our conversation is sounding a little checkered, it's because we're trying not to go too far. I'm gonna say this for you guys who are just joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the book bar. This is another episode of Books and Booze with Deborah L. King, and we're talking about what I affectionately am calling Glory Glory. It's two books in this series, Glory Bishop and Glory Unbound. And we're talking about it, but I really want you guys to experience it. She is my 2023 new author. So I read this book, and I probably should have maybe posted it a little bit earlier for you guys to read it, so that you can kind of chime in. But maybe once you guys pick it up and read it, one of you all can come back and talk to me about it so we can, talk to the rest of the community about it. It really is a good book. But this was a big, huge undertaking for you, I feel like, for you to take out right out the gate.
It was originally supposed to be one book.
Hmm. Oh, that's what they all say.
That's yeah, yeah. It was supposed to be one book, and it was supposed to include all of Glory and JT's life together in relationship.
Hmm.
Malcolm was supposed to be a bad guy with twirling his mustache, and it was supposed to include all of Mary's story. And this
Mm.
was all going to be in one book. And by the time I got to what was the end of Glory Bishop, I realized, okay, this is not going to be just one book, because I hadn't even told half of the story at that point. And
Hmm.
then when I started writing the second book, I thought this was going to be the rest of Glory's story, and I was going to weave in her mother's story to show how their lives parallel.
Hmm.
Well, Glory Unbound is 130,000 words.
Hmm.
So I could not have gotten another 90,000 words in that story. So that turned into a third book.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was a huge undertaking. I hadn't planned it that way. I had an outline that I will call myself following,
Hmm.
and I would change the outline as I wrote. I'd write a scene and go, "Oh yeah, this is better." So I'd scratch out the outline and add in my new scenes. Um, I had a few. I'm not going to say fights with the publisher. I'll call them disagreements,
Okay.
because in most cases the publisher won. Um, but yeah, it was a big job.
Now, how was that journey to, because this is published, it's not self-published. So how was that journey with the publisher? And you had said that you had some disagreements. What was it, how you told the story, or was it the how big it was? What were the disagreements on it?
The disagreement with the publisher was the original ending of Glory Bishop had Malcolm and Glory getting married.
Ooh.
And the publisher said, no, people will fling this book across the room.
She's right.
And so I wrote about three or four other endings. And the ending that the publisher wanted was the ending that's in Glory Bishop now. And I pushed back. I did not want that ending. I wanted more closure.
Hmm.
Um, but the only reasonable closure, I couldn't close the story because there was so much more story left.
Hmm.
And to my mind, having Malcolm and Glory getting married would have led to the next story. She said nobody's going to want to read the next story. If you ended with the Glory marrying the bad guy, nobody's going to want to read it.
I don't know about that, but I have to say I was mad at you with that first ending though, because I'm just like, really? Oh, come on. You got to be kidding me. And thank goodness that the second book was available for me right away, because oh, well, that would not have ended well. That would not have ended well for me. So tell the publisher that we still wanted to fling the book across the room, after that. But yeah, you had so many complex characters in this story. Like all of them were very, it was not really no easy character in here. What, and I'm gonna say whether it was um main characters or secondary characters. They were all complicated. I think the only one that was really easy was Hershey's cousin.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the only one I think I can find. And even him had a story too, you know what I mean? But I think he was the only easy one. He was just really, really laid back. But he had some things too. Let's talk a little bit about Hershey. Y'all, Hershey, I love Hershey. Hershey runs um hair salon, and he's got a little flair to him, and he is just all around good guy. And I feel like, you know how they say God put people in your lives for a reason, season, or a lifetime. I felt like I don't know how far Glory could have went in her journey without a Hershey in her life.
I
So I loved him.
I think Herschel was. I don't know where that character came
I was
from.
gonna ask, like, does he mirror anyone?
Um, Herschel. There was a guy I thought I was dating when I was in my early 20s.
Mhm.
Um, that's the closest person to Herschel. Um, Tall, gorgeous. I was dating him. He wasn't dating me, but
Okay.
we
Okay.
hung out a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Um, that's who I think that's who I modeled Herschel after.
Okay. Yeah, I loved me some well, his it was Herschel, but I call him Hershey. Yeah, so guys, when you pick up the book, I know y'all gonna fall in love with him. Deborah, did you read the book? Because you are on point with everything. um
Yes, she
so
did read the book. That's my aunt.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that's good. So okay, so let me just ask you a little bit about now Mary. Mary's story is coming out this year.
Yes.
But let me just go back to Mary. Now, would I be safe in saying that Mary and her family had some that there were some generational curses going on there?
I think so.
Okay.
Um, in Glory Bishop, Mary's family is mostly normal.
Mhm.
It's you don't get that there's madness in the family. But when Mary was 15, her parents tried to marry her off to this old preacher. And she ran away
Mhm.
from home and married the boy down the way. And
Mhm.
some bad things happened.
Mhm.
And she wound up married to the she wound up coming back home, and she wound up married to the old preacher anyway.
Mhm.
So the generational curses weren't through her family. It was her family was normal for the time.
Mhm.
You want your daughters to marry up, you want them to not marry a dirt farmer, a sharecropper down the road.
Mhm.
And when Mary came of age, as she came into her adulthood, she was isolated from her family with this crazy old preacher.
Okay.
So that's where her madness came from.
Okay.
And she thought she developed some strange ideas and thought that the only way to protect Glory from what she suffered was to marry her off to an old preacher.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that was something. Yeah, and then but Ruthie too, the sister or the aunt to Glory, she had an episode with a preacher as well.
And she did not handle it the way Mary handled
No, she did not. But yeah, kudos for Ruthie. But okay, so we talked a little bit about the family a little bit. You know what? Let me pause right here because let's do a giveaway. Um,
Okay.
so we're gonna give away is an ebook copyright of
Hmm.
is it well we're gonna start with Glory Unbound, Glory Bishop
We can
to
give
get
away
them
both of them at
at
once,
the same.
so somebody can read the first book and then read the second book.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna scroll through here, and then you're just gonna tell me to stop, and then the person who I land on, that will be our winner. So I'm gonna start now. So you just tell me when to stop.
Okay, stop.
Okay, so that is gonna be Erica. Now, is Erica one of
Erica is my god sister.
okay, so I'm assuming she already has it.
I don't know if she
Oh,
already
okay.
has it.
Well, Erica, congratulations. You are the winner of Glory Bishop and Glory Unbound, an ebook copy. So when you are done, you can either send me a message in Midnight Ace Book Bar on Facebook, or you can send it directly to Deborah L. King with your email address. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. All right. So, okay. So, like now, you take us to the whirlwind of now we're going to go to Glory Unbound, and I'm just going to kind of show you the cover here of this one didn't show up, so the Glory Bishop didn't show up in the picture, but this woman here is holding Glory Bishop, and this is the synopsis of it. So if you can get a quick, view of it, and maybe it can kind of give you a little bit of information about what we're talking about here. Um, and then here we have Glory and Bound, which is the second book. And Glory, Mary's book, which is Glory's mother, is coming out this year. Do you have a date for that yet, Miss
Don't have
Deborah?
a date for it. It is in line editing.
Okay,
Um, I just know it's coming out this year. I don't even want to say what season. I just know
gotcha.
it's coming this year.
Gotcha, 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 gotcha. So okay, so here this is Glory and Bound. So this is kind of the synopsis of this one here. So now that we got we're fast forwarding now through Glory Bishop to Glory and Bound. And then so Malcolm and Glory have been hanging out in Glory Bishop's book, and they have this very unusual relationship. And so um then we meet Malcolm's mother, who is the first lady of the church. And then we see a little bit about Malcolm's father, the elder of the church. Okay. And so tell me a little bit about Malcolm's mother, because I couldn't get a read on her at first, and it wasn't until the very end that I'm still a little iffy, but I kind of think I understand her now. But tell me a little bit about her and her character.
She's a Southern Belle.
Mhm.
Came out of Louisiana. Um, she came up during in the 50s.
Okay.
She married an old preacher 30 years older than her.
Mhm.
For the prestige,
Mhm.
she came from a wealthy family, and her parents did not want her to marry the sharecroppers who lived on their land. They wanted her to marry up, so she wound up attracting the attention of this old man.
Mhm.
Um, they are she is, I don't want to say a little full of herself,
Mhm.
but she's a debutante.
Yeah, I get
She,
that. Totally get that. Yeah.
think Whitley Gilbert on A Different World.
Mhm.
Um, very, very prim, very proper. Firmly believes in meeting the right people, knowing the right people, going to the best colleges, things like that. And what she offered to Glory was everything. She was handing Glory the world on a silver platter, and all Glory had to do was take it.
Mm-hmm.
And Glory had a tough decision.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so at first I wasn't sure from what angle she was coming from. And she might have been she might have been, it might have been a double-edged sword, really. Um because but then toward the end, I kind of felt like she was trying to save Glory from herself, from everything else. I think in the end, that's what I felt like. But in the beginning, I kind of felt like she was being manipulative, which I think she was anyways, but she just didn't go about it the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was very manipulative.
Yeah.
And there she and Malcolm had some serious parallels. They were equally manipulative.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And I almost said, I almost felt like they were both mean spirited, but I kind of changed my mind toward the end of Unbound. I think Miss Anita was very in tune with what she wanted out of life. And so when we get to when I guess I have to say, so I'm over the ending of Glory Bishop, but I feel like you owe me for Glory Unbound. I think you owe me for Glory Unbound. I don't know how you gonna repay me, but I think you owe me for Glory Unbound.
why? I thought I ended Glory Unbound okay.
You ended it on a high note, but I guess I can't say, but you took too long, and then I wanted more of that. So hi Veronica, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. Yeah, so I think you kind of owe me, but I'm gonna see what Mary, you definitely need to give me Mary's story, that's for sure. um but now, okay, so let's kind of, since we're coming down to the end of our chat here, I want to know, before we go, I want to know what's next for you. What's in store for you? Are you going to stay with like women's fiction, or is that your jam, or are you going to venture out to any other genres?
Um, Probably sticking with women's fiction because
Okay, got you.
that's the stories that come to me.
Okay.
Um, I am working on, I still have to finish edits on Mary Not Broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting work on another one, and I can't really give much away, but it is women's fiction, but it's kind of set in maybe 10 or 15 years in the future.
Okay. 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 All right. And so she's not giving away any dates, y'all. I'm not gonna push her. I'm trying to be good today. All right. 'Cause, yeah, it's her first time. I want her to come back. So I don't want to beat her down with questions and make her tell me everything. But y'all know I will do it, right? It's all in the name of my book buddies, right? So okay, so you're coming out with that. You're gonna continue on. Now, do you do any book events? Do you have any events coming up soon?
No events coming up soon. There will be a formal launch party for Mary Not Broken when it comes out.
Okay.
I'm desperately hoping it comes out in the in the summer or early fall so I can
Okay.
have a launch party not in the snow.
Okay.
Um I have been asked about other books in other characters in Gloria Unbound and Glory Bishop, and if I'm writing more books. And as of now, Herschel is not getting a book,
Mm-hmm.
and Anita is not getting a book. I, they're not telling me their stories yet.
Okay.
I'm not hearing from them, and I don't know enough about them to effectively share anything. They're not talking to me right now.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other characters too, that that Quinn. kind of struck me as being very intricate part of the story. I can't remember the guy. He was the one on the train who drew the pictures.
James. Yes.
James. I feel like there's something there for him too, but I can always find something for some characters. So I'm just saying. But those two, and then Mr. Harris too. I thought I was gonna see him. I really, really thought I was gonna see him. I thought he was gonna have to pop up. I
I thought he was too, but he
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah. Here's a question from the audience. She says the book's set in the 80s.
Yes.
I would say, okay, yeah, that's what I would say too. Uh, and then Cheryl is in Chicagoland area.
Oh,
She's in Michigan, but that's right next door. That's our neighbors, right? Um, but yeah, James, I liked him. I thought he was going to be Mr. Harris. I thought he was going to have to show up. And then the little boy, JJ.
JJ.
JJ was I loved me some JJ too. He was there. And then the family that she ended up being adopted by, like not a complete adoption, but that family over there are some stories there. That restaurant.
There probably is, but that family was pretty much my family.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The owners, June and Perry, were my parents.
Mhm.
Um, and my parents adopted people. Just
Most our parents did back then, right?
just hey, how you doing? Welcome to the family.
Right, right,
Just
right. Look, long as you sat down and you sat at the table, you got to eat. You could have some shelter, and then once you get around the rest of the kids, you just kind of blended in. You know what I mean?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, that one was there, and I almost felt like Hershey's cousin. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like he might have had something. I don't know. He was very mysterious to me, but I liked him. I liked him. Yeah. But anyway, so where can everybody find you now? Social medias, tell them everywhere that they can find you, where they can find all of your books.
Well, all of my books are on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to start reading Mary's story early, it's on Kindle Vella.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one episode at a time. That was the hardest thing I've ever written in my life
Mm-hmm.
because I wrote it while it was being published. So I had to write an episode every week.
Ooh. Well,
And
that's
I
one way of
couldn't
getting
go
it
back
done.
and edit anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was tough. But Mary Not Broken is on Kindle Vella. But you can get Glory Bishop and Glory Unbound on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, Kobo, uh,
Okay.
Apple, Google. If you Google Glory Bishop, it'll come up everywhere.
Okay. So pretty much everywhere books are sold.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. And what about social media platforms?
On Facebook, it is Deborah L. King Writer. On um, Instagram, it's Deborah L. King Writer. On Twitter, it's Deborah Loy,
Okay.
Deborah. Um, let's see, what else am I on? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Um,
There's so many of them now.
yeah, I think I'm on everything else as Deborah Loy,
Okay.
Deborah.
All
And my
right.
website is deborahlking.com.
All right. All right. So guys, go out and pick up the book, visit her website. And if you're thinking about purchasing a book, do you have autograph copies from on your off your website?
No, I don't. But if you email me or send me a DM on Facebook, I can arrange that.
Okay, all right, you heard it there. So if you want a autograph copy, reach out to her on Facebook in the DM, and she can arrange getting you autographed copy. Otherwise, you can find them in all places where books are sold for an ebook copy. Grab the book. When I tell you, it is a very engaging story. I'm telling you, the stuff that was going on in there, it brings out so many emotions. I felt like I should stop, but I could not stop reading the book. And then when I got to the end, I was looking for more, so I went straight to the second book. When I tell you the book was good. So grab the book, and then hopefully we can have Miss Deborah back, and then we can do some of those spoilers, because I feel like we were talking like a broken record because we didn't want to tell too much. So I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to introduce Miss Deborah to you guys because she is my 2023 new author of the year, and I wanted to bring her on and talk to her. I want you guys to get to know her. And the book, like I said, is amazing. So grab it, and then maybe one of you all can come back and talk to me. I'm starting a new episode too, guys. That's just for the readers. It's called the Book Buddy session. So look for that. Hopefully, if you guys have this, I'll bring you back and we can talk about this. Okay. All right. So
Cool,
thank you so
sounds
much.
good.
Enjoy your weekend. Miss Deborah, thank you so much for coming to talk to me. I appreciate it so much and I enjoyed myself. So everybody else, have a good night. Remember to smile. That might be the hello somebody might need to save their life. So take care.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Just stay right there.